With a lot of people working from home this year, everybody needs a new desk. This desk is built for me, and here's my submission to the Rockler Desk Challenge. While it's easy to jump into the shop and just start cutting, this build doesn't actually start there. It starts in Fusion. I did this because I wanted to make sure that the desk would fit my size and also give me the aesthetic that I was looking for. Once I had the design down, I start working on the base. As you can see here, I'm working with cherry panels that I cut down to size, and now I'm starting to lay out the houndstooth dovetail. If you have seen any of my work on Instagram or any of my previous YouTube videos, you know I'm a really big fan of dovetails. I've recently started to get into the houndstooth dovetails, and I just finished a houndstooth dovetail cabinet. I'll leave a link right up here so you can check that video out as well. This process is pretty straightforward. It's all about the layout. If you're able to nail the layout, it's just a bunch of small little steps added together to make the final product. With the sides complete, I now move to the top. The top is going to be made out of 8/4 walnut. I was able to find a really beautiful piece of walnut that had a bunch of figure in it. Unfortunately, it was only 16 inches wide, so I did have to do a glue up to get our overall depth of 20 inches. Once that's all ready to go, I'm going to start to lay out the dimensions of the houndstooth pins. You can see here I'm using 3 different marking gauges to make sure and keep those settings throughout the build process. I transfer the tails to the pins, and then I start to cut it. In regards to houndstooth dovetails, this is the process that takes the most amount of time. Cutting the tails is relatively quick because you can use your dovetail saw and your coping saw. For the pins, on the other hand, it's mostly chisel work. You did see I used my dovetail saw to rough out the lines, but that only gets me part way there. 90% of the work is done with different size chisels, making sure to clear out all the waste properly to get a proper fitting joint. Since this desk was for me, it allowed me to use products that I haven't used before to try them out. 3 things that I did use were from Doug Mockett. I used a flush mounted outlet on this side, a pop-up outlet on this side, and I put a wireless charger recessed in the top. I'm really excited to see how they work over time and see how it increases the functionality of this desk. With the joinery complete, I now am going to add those creature comforts I was talking about. The first one is a leather writing mat. I need to recess this in, so I route out the top. I use the edge guide to give me the crisp edges, and then I come back and clean it up. The next one is the outlet on the left-hand side of the desk. Unfortunately, this outlet will not fit in this desk because the top is too thick. To overcome this, I use a larger Forstner bit to create a recess, and then I use the proper size Forstner bit from the top to drill all the way through so the outlet will seat in it. Before moving any further, I test the fit to make sure that the outlet is going to seat properly using that recess. The next outlet is on the right hand side, and this is a pop-up outlet. It's personally my favorite. It has a standard outlet and then 2 USB ports built in. To install this outlet, I drilled 4 relief holes and then used my jigsaw to rough out the opening. I then used a chisel to finesse the fit to make sure it fit perfectly. Just like the other outlet, I test fit this one before moving on as well, and it's a perfect fit. The last item to go into the top is a hidden wireless charger. This wireless charger will mount from the underside and have a small pinhole so you know where to locate it at. All 3 of these products are from Doug Mockett. They make really fine hardware, so go check them out. I'll leave a link below in the description. The reason why I waited so long to cut the angles of the legs is because I wanted them to be square for laying out the dovetails. To cut the angles, I used the track saw and I stacked the pieces on top of each other to make sure that they're the proper angle on each side. To cut the angles for the 2 bottom shelves, I put them in place and then struck a line. I then laid the track on that line and tilted the saw to the proper angle. Due to the angled legs of this desk, I can't use the jig to set the drawer slides properly, so I created the shim to get the proper depth so all of the slides will line up perfectly. To secure the shim, I use woodworking tape from X-Fasten. This is a double-sided tape that has great holding strength.
I create a second shim to get the proper height to make sure that all 3 drawers will be aligned evenly. I use a Bessie trigger clamp to make sure that the shim stays in place, and then I use a second trigger clamp to make sure that the slide stays in its proper orientation while I screw it into place. Once I get one screw in place, I can remove the clamp and put in the remaining screws. Like most of my projects, I'm going to finish this desk using Rubio Monocoat Pure 2C. The way I mix it is using syringes to get the proper ratio of part A to part B. This top is a beautiful piece of walnut, and you can see some of the figure without finish on it, but just watch as the finish is applied and how the figure comes to life. I'm really happy with the piece of walnut I chose for this top. You can see I use 2 different techniques to apply this finish. In the large open areas, I use the scraper, and then close to the edges and any openings, I use a small Scotch-Brite pad. With the finish applied, time to install all the goodies. Here I am installing the pop-up outlet. It's just a friction fit, and watch how it pops up perfectly. Next, I test the wireless charger, and I install the final outlet on the left-hand side. To attach the leather mat, I use contact cement. I put contact cement on the back of the mat as well as in the opening and let it tack up for about 15 minutes before I put the 2 pieces together. The last functional item that I'm going to put in place is some wire management from Doug Mockett. This comes in various lengths, and then you just cut it to size. To attach it to the cabinet, I'm using some X-Fasten double-sided tape. This will hold it in place perfectly. This wire management will keep all the wires controlled in one central location and just give it a cleaner look when you open the door. It's really easy to put any of the cords into the system. It just has one side that is partially open. Due to the angles of the legs, I had to angle the drawer front. So the drawer front started as 8/4 walnut. I put it in its final place and then struck a line on both sides. This gave me the angle to plane to. I'm using my Lee Nielsen low angle jack plane to get the perfect angle for the drawer front. While this took a lot of time and effort, I think it really made the piece. Every drawer front lines up perfectly with the legs. To secure the drawer fronts to the drawer boxes, I shimmed it out using some Festool playing cards, and then I secured it temporarily using some X-Fasten woodworking tape. This held it perfectly while I was able to take the drawer out and install some screws. Just in case, I threw a Bessie trigger clamp on there while I was moving the drawer. To secure this, I used 4 screws, 1 in each quarter, and this will provide more than enough support. If you remember back to the Fusion hardware, there's no drawer pulls on this desk. I accomplished this by using Blum Movento tip-on slides. This allows me to push on the drawer boxes and then they pop out. I also installed a hidden safe on the right-hand side.
If you remember back to my original design, there was 4 drawers in this desk, but they were in a different layout. On this side there was going to be 2, as well as on this side. In the middle of the build process, I decided to switch that up, and I went with 3 drawers on this side, 1 drawer on this side, leaving this space open. What I originally was going to do was going to put a printer there. Quickly realized there was no printer small enough to fit in that space that worked with my needs. So what I decided to do is switch it up again. I went with 1 drawer up top, and then I'm going to build a door for this to store some of my other equipment like my microphones and any of the larger items.
When you think you're done, you gotta create a door, so I use my track saw to cut the door to size. This is my first time using Blum hinges, and they worked perfectly. The hinges I'm using do not use screws, so I need to drill 2 larger holes using this jig. The jig perfectly indexes off the center hole to give a perfect alignment for the two smaller holes. I am also using the tip-on system for this door. It works beautifully.
Thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed watching the build process of how I built this desk. If you like this and similar content, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate your support as I'm trying to grow this YouTube channel. If you have any feedback or questions, please leave them down below in the comment section, as well as there's links to everything that I discussed in this video below and links to my Instagram and website. Thank you so much again for watching and have a great day.